Another controversy, this time over an economist who has talked about the, quote, stupidity of the American voters. That economist, Jonathan Gruber, was one of the architects of Obamacare and has said that the passing of the president's health care plan relied on that so-called stupidity.
All right, folks, at least ABC News talking about it. This was Tuesday night, and on Tuesday night, NBC Nightly News continued its streak of ignoring the comments made by Jonathan Gruber to an 11th day. ABC finally, with David Moore there, finally talked about it. You know, it's just ridiculous. But to ABC's credit, they're on board after, you know, almost 2 weeks. And here's some more.
Here's one of those instances.
Lack of transparency is a huge political advantage. And basically, you know, call it the stupidity of the American voter or whatever. But basically, that was really, really critical to getting the thing to pass.
Yeah, all right. Now, Jonathan Karl there, who was the reporter on this story, I think the next thing you're going to see is he's asking a question of Josh Earnest if Jonathan Gruber is going to be fired. Or would he ever be hired again by the administration? And can you bet, can you believe, isn't the obvious answer absolutely not? No, they won't say he won't be hired again. Watch.
Well, today, John pressed the White House. Would Gruber, who has talked about the stupidity of the American voter, be hired by the White House again? Listen.
He's made more than $2 million from the federal government, $400,000 specifically regarding the health care law. No more government contracts for Jonathan Gruber?
Well, I assume that that those kinds of decisions are based on merit, but certainly the comments that he has now famously expressed are not views that are shared by anybody at the White House.
But he wouldn't say no, would he? Did he? No, he did not say no, of course not. He danced around the question. And here's Jonathan Karl's analysis of that answer.
So, John, was that a yes or a no? Would they hire him again?
Well, they won't rule out hiring him again somewhere down the line, some part of the federal government. Let me tell you this, David, you won't see Jonathan Gruber around the White House again. They don't want any part of him after those comments. He is persona non grata.
But they won't rule out hiring him again somewhere down the line. That's what he said. All right. Chuck Todd was on with me on Monday. He made news which has been picked up by everybody. I mean, it's gone viral. When I asked him why it took 11 days for any of the networks to even pick up and mention Grubergate, and here's how that went. Why did it take 9 days once the Gruber video came out? You talked about it on Meet the Press just the other day, but the networks, 9 days before they talked about it.
And
now it's a huge story.
I'm not saying it's not a story. Look, I'm not in charge of any of those network newscasts. But what is the news today of that? It's a political story. Network news in general hasn't been covering the political back and forth of Washington a lot lately. I don't think this has to do with Gruber specifically. I would just caution people on that.
All right, that was for Tuesday, not Monday, my mistake. But that wasn't a great answer by Chuck Todd, and it exposed the bias that exists. That's why, you know, this has been all over the place, that soundbite, I'm happy to say. Love making news. Okay, back to ABC News. When the Keystone Pipeline failed on its Senate vote the other day, here's ABC's report. Watch.
And now to breaking news from Washington, a high-stakes vote late today in the Senate involving the controversial Keystone Pipeline. Many argued it could have created thousands of American jobs. It did not pass the Senate.
Proponents say it not only creates jobs, but it could lead to energy independence. But opponents, environmentalists, say this would be a terrible thing to do. It would contribute to global warming. But, David, this came just one vote short tonight.
The long-debated Keystone XL pipeline has fallen short of the 60 votes it needed to pass the Senate. The oil pipeline, if it were to get the go-ahead, would run from Canada through the U.S. to the Gulf of Mexico. Had this Senate vote gone the other way, the White House has strongly hinted the president would veto it.
ABC and NBC did not mention, did you hear the name, Mary Landrieu at all? Senator Mary Landrieu. She was behind this push. She was behind this vote. She needed it passed. She felt to have a chance to win in the runoff election for her seat in her home state of Louisiana. Not once did they mention her. To their credit, CBS Evening News in their report did mention her. Media bias? You decide.